A very good day to you, viewer. It's that time of the week again where we bring to you yet another interesting dose of your darling program, Youth Can, on independent television, ITV. I am your host, Joy Igoche. Youth Can is that lovely program created by ITV to reach out to youth with creative and entrepreneurship ideas that are geared towards the development of the society. And I believe by now you want to tap somebody, to tell somebody, to keep it glued to their screen, because today promises to be very, very interesting. On the 24th of January this year, the world will be celebrating the International Day of Education. And this has spurred our topic of discourse for today, which is education a true measure of life success? Is going to school, or is formal education the true measure of life success? That's when we want to narrow it down to being the formal education. So a lot of questions are there to ask, like, the famous aphorism that goes that education is the key. But the question is, the key to what exactly? Does it really open doors? And what is success? Or how can we measure this life success? So much questions there screaming for answers. I'll be showing you a very interesting video that can water down your appetite on this question of education or formal education being the true measure of life success or not. Keep it glued to your screen, and when we return, we'll be having a special guest to do justice to this topic. Stay tuned, don't go nowhere.
A lot of times, especially in Africa and maybe Western Africa, we measure our successes on how many degrees we're able to accumulate. But times and statistics have shown that you do not need a degree to be successful. Now, this is not to discourage anyone from going to school. I went to school, I'm a graduate, but I would encourage that beyond what the school offers, there is a world of unending education that is available to you outside the walls of school. It's available to you in your smartphone, on your laptop, on the internet. It's available to you in libraries in the form of books, right? It's available to you in online courses, in online classes, in YouTube tutorials, in the areas of your interest. I personally would say that the level of education that I have was not given to me by school. Of course, school did set the foundation, being able to read and write. But from then onwards, I made up my mind that I was going to be excellent at what I do, right? And in doing that, I did not have to depend on the formal education because they were not offering that kind of education. For example, how effective has school been in teaching us about money? The most important thing that they prepare us for is the thing that they do not teach us about. I mean, we go to school so that we can get good grades, right? That's what our parents tell us. That's what our teachers tell us. So we can get good grades, get into the real world, and get good jobs, good high-paying jobs with some form of security. But they don't teach us about investments. They don't teach us about taxes and how it works. They don't teach us real estate. They don't teach us assets and liabilities. And so that's where the real problem is with the school education. And so when I say education, I am speaking beyond what the formal educational system has to offer. So you can be an educated man even though you've never stepped your foot in a four-wall called school. In the words of Albert Einstein, he said, education is what is left after one has forgotten what they learned in school. How interesting. And I define education as becoming the best at what you love to do in providing solutions to problems.
You're welcome back again, and of course, when the screen looks this good, you know what time it is. It's Youth Can on ITV, and I have been your host, Joy Igoche. Like I promised before the very short break, that we'll be coming back with a special guest to do justice to this topic of discourse today. If formal education or education in total is a true measure of life success. And I have with me in the studio Dr. Tafida. You're welcome, sir.
Hello, everyone, and it's a pleasure being here.
Thanks a lot for coming here.
Thank you, Joy.
Okay, you know, scholars like Babs, Fafungwa, and others have tried to describe what education is. So, but I would like you to use your own terms to tell me, what is education?
To be sincere, if we say we're going to go the scholars' way, a lot of people will drop out of school, because some scholars even define education as a form of a prison, in which you are made to think in a certain way, act in a certain way, and to be controlled. But that is not the truth. A scholar or a philosopher always have a way of putting things. To some of them, it's just a poetic, something to show that I understand how things are. But in reality, we have to look at what education is and what makes education different and what makes it special. But not also what we assume education is in Nigeria or in Africa. Education is just a system of you being lettered. That's the simplest explanation. It's a system of you being lettered. That is, you be able to read, able to write, understand, and communicate appropriately. Then later on in life, other philosophers or other people who understood it try to add some things to control cognition in education. When we introduce things like mathematics, I know a lot of children will be asking, what is the value of that x plus y? Because all of us don't know what
like,
the
you know,
answer.
everybody say we've been looking for x since ages and we've not seen x.
Yeah. But and someone was even teasing me in my workplace. He's texting me, now that you're working, have you found the square root of y? You know, all of this. But the truth is, those ones were later introduced to help you develop your cognition, to develop your mental ability to think, to make you think and help you grow better. So these are developed for a different reason. When you are being asked to calculate 1 plus 1, that thinking that you do to do the 1 plus 1 sharpens your thought and it makes you better. So that's why it's introduced. But the main purpose of education, or the whole education itself, is the purpose of it to make you lettered. That is, to be able to read, write, communicate, and make things out of it. Now, that make things out of it is what most of us, that's what we need to discuss.
Okay, so thank you very much for expatiating that. So what then is the difference between education and literacy?
Education is the process of you getting the value and being educated. Literacy is you being lettered. Ability to read, write, and take it forward. Now, literacy stops at just you being able to read, write, without necessarily of adding that arithmetic part that I brought to you. That comes with education. With that ability to make you think on how to invent something or work on a certain technology and make something better, that comes with education. So you see, education is a bit ahead of just being lettered. Though the main purpose is for you to be lettered, but the purpose as it goes further, so many things were added, and that's why education has different levels. At the primary school, nursery, secondary, high school, higher high school, higher high school, each one with a different level and a different expectation. A person in a primary school, all you're trying to do is to help him at least read and write. When he comes to secondary school, you want him to read, write, and express himself. When he comes to a graduate level, you're trying to help him read, write, express himself, and now have a focus of what he wants to become. So he picks a major, which that's mostly we don't have it here. Here, if they give you from admission, you're given a major, just do that major and that's all. But in some other places, you can always change your major because this is what you feel you're good at. Then after that level, you come to masters. When at masters, what they're just trying to test is to what extent can you read what other people created and compare and be able to present it. While at the PhD level, what is expected is what knowledge, new one, are you going to profess that you're going to bring us something new. So as a PhD level, you're expected to have brought something new or have developed what someone else have developed and you've grown it. So that's why the levels are changing. But you are lettered as soon as you finish secondary school mostly, or even as primary school. So that is literacy. But education builds better and it gives a better focus on what you want to do.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. But I believe that education is an umbrella term. And it covers so many types and all. So can you please expatiate on the types of education? Because from what you've been saying, you've been more focused on the formal kind of education, that's the going to school. So what other types of education are there?
The whole idea is deliberate, and I refuse to, and I still stand by my point.
Okay.
The term formal is just a creation of some certain group of people who believe if you do not do their own, you're not formal. What defines formal? Because we have people who never did their own and they are creating better things. We have some of the things that you even use in the formal were created in the same setting that you call informal. Take for example, if you pick Arabic, if you go to the northern setting, the first thing they learn is the Arabic classes, the Ajami that they learn. The numbers we use today are called Arabic numbers. Now you are learning them, these same numbers in another setting, you are called informal. But just because they are written in English, they become formal. So you see, the formal is just a social construct to make things work. But in reality, if you really want to talk about education as a whole, so it's an umbrella that covers everything together. Depending on which language do you want to study. There was a research we did on some African countries that were having a better education system. And we learned that what they did is they're translating those books into their own local languages. For example, in some countries, in African countries, they translated the books to Swahili, which what we came to learn is the first struggle a child has, not children of ours who are in Abuja or Kaduna or in Lagos, who from the first on-go, you speak English to them. No, we're talking about the major population that are out there, which the mother language is something else. The first crisis is teaching him the English. Then he understands the English and try to understand sociology or social studies in the English. Then try to understand what the social study tried to explain. Already you have to bridge him on so many gaps. This is different from someone who, from the first language, you're just trying to teach him geography in Hausa or in Ibibio or in Ifik. Give him the language straight to learn. Now that's still education, and that is still formal by definition. Because you teach someone adult education in a local Hausa language using the Arabic or a language he understands. You can call it informal. To me, it's formal, because what matters is he get the education, he get the value of what the education trying to create, and he build on it. And let me make something clear. Most of us make a mistake of assuming that formality, and that's why we're missing the point on education, and believing that just because you went to classes and you get taught in the English language, and because you have a formal, if you get out of the class, a job will be waiting for you. That is not true. Because the main source of what the education is supposed to do is missed, so it's assumed is a meal ticket. Trust me, if it's a meal ticket, it's a different queue.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So where do you categorize things like skills, like crafts, people who major in learning different handcrafts and skills, like maybe tailoring, welding, and all of that? Where do you categorize them to? Do you say they also undergo education? Yeah,
so because we wanted to, they're new, we are trying to bring them in, we keep giving them different names, entrepreneurship, skills. The truth is, they're also a form of learning.
Okay.
They are a form of education. But because we made a mistake from our parents and we discriminated such things as informal, as only downtrodden that learns it, we dumped it. And we went for the meal ticket, and now the table is full. Even if you have the meal ticket, there is no seat again to sit on the table. Only very few can get to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze using whip, bribe. There's nothing we don't do now to get our children into jobs.
What is success?
That's entirely a different game of discussion.
Yes.
Success entirely has nothing really to do with education in itself.
Okay.
But education is one of the routes that will help you to success.
All right.
I once had a debate with someone who was trying to tell me that he doesn't like Western education. I said, what is it that you don't want? Is it the 1+1? Or is it, I am going to school and you're going to make a construct of a sentence? Now, that same person that is saying this is actually a dealer, of a wholesaler of things in the market, and he is successful by the definition of the terms of where he stays. That's why I say success is a different term in itself. When you're in secondary school, the level of success, my son is always coming first. The mother is successful, not the son at this point. She tells everybody, my son always comes first. When he is graduating university, he gets admission to university, it's also a form of success. When he graduates from university, it's a form of success. When he gets a job, it's a form of success. Now, everybody has what he terms as a form of success. But back to the whole point. to what extent do you contribute, do you add value to your society? That is what I define as success.
Okay. So now we are narrowing it down to youth because we're talking about youth can. So do you think going to school, as in the four walls of the university, is the true measure of life success?
Not at all.
I want you to also consider societal stigma and everything.
But not entirely not true as well.
Okay, so...
One, if the real definition of a wall, four walls, is being done right, then it is a path for everybody to follow. That wall, remember, or those of you who knew in the past, if you go through those walls, you are going to have some practical classes. My school, I did technical work, which I go to a metal workshop, I bend the metal. Up to now, last when I went to my secondary school, the hacksaw I created is still there. So those are supposed to be part of the four classes that will take out the stigma. So the school system have to start teaching those within a system. Then we also add the social construct formal. If we keep separating them, it keep causing the challenge and the gap, and forever stigma is an issue. You can't just expect a person will be taken out of a society. It's not possible. When something is stigmatized at this zone, it's not possible for you to say you're going to put your son through it and he'll be comfortable. At best, is you'll be saying, Mommy, why is so-so person not doing it? Mommy, why are you saying me, I must do it? Well, Mommy, they are laughing at me. And it is real on the child's psychology. It's a fact. So this world system has to change in itself, in which a setting will be. Let's not give it too many complicated names, because the more we give it complicated names, the more we even try to separate the two. It's education. Let him learn where he can create something to add to the society. I'm not saying somebody who studied political science doesn't have value, but let him learn how to create a social construct within the society that will make the polity better. Not just to pass and carry a certificate as a meal ticket. That is the culture I want to change. So the four walls, it's one of the best ways, so that way we can take out the stigma easily. Now, before that is done, we also need to start encouraging our children to do what is right. While he go for those paperwork, let him be learning what he need to add as a value to society. Make him think on what can he use what he's doing to add value. There's so much research they say we use less than 2 to 3% of our brain capacity. Yeah. It means children can do better. All you need is to encourage them to do more. Now we have CGI walls now. We have computers being made to do things. Those children that create those things, that is making the computer to do things, they were not brought down from heaven. They were taught how to do it. Yes, you don't know how to do it. Then take your child for internship. Just let him go and be learning how to do it. Before you realize, don't know what he's good at. Then he picks something. Is it art? Is it creation? What are you going to add him to? Before this, because it will take some time before the four walls of the class to start doing what we're envisaging. That is to have the complete system. But for now, as a parent, please, help your child through the two things concurrently.
Thank you very much. The honors in all you've said just now is all about, creating impact with this knowledge learned, these skills learned. So as we're gradually coming to a close of this interview segment, the word success, I feel it's relative. Because there are a lot of successes. You can see success in this angle, success in this angle. So, like for you, like personally, can you attribute all the successes in your life to just formal education or education as it is?
To be sincere, the success in my life I'll attribute it to the struggle of the growth itself. When you're growing up and so many things you have to push to meet up with the competitions, one of the best people that make people better in any setting are cousins. It's a fact. Because there's always this, I have to do this, I have to do that, your mom wants you to do this and all. But every success I have is as a result of, I believe, there's always another way out. I've never believed there's one way to something. When the other people take the path that is easier or the path that they can afford and I can't afford, I always believe I can get there or even pass it, but through another alternative. And I search for it and I always get it. And as a person, I did this even as a child. As a person, I did this even as a young adult, and as a person, I'm doing it even as a young man. And I'm encouraging everybody to please stand up to that. There's always an alternative to something. So for you to be successful, you have to stand up, get into it, start it, be patient, be persistent. There's always an alternative and you'll get there.
Wow, that's nice. I should be applauding you. But okay, so finally, as we gradually come to the end of this, would like you to advise the youth out there who is watching us today. You know, there's this societal expectations with your certificate, especially after NYSC, you know, and you're like, okay, my certificate is supposed to be fetching me this, and this. So what is your advice to that youth out there about these expectations? Because we are talking today about success and, you know, life success vis-a-vis education. So the youth, basically, especially those ones that are just passing out from the university or passing out from service, the expectation is so high and they end up being depressed when the societal pressure is on them. What is your advice today?
To be sincere, depression is real and it's going to come up if you did not create that alternative. In life, I always group what we can be into three. Either to be a leader, to be a public manager, or to be a leader in the business environment. If you decide to pick any of these three, what is always there and it's clear that you can always achieve is you can start by learning something. You want to get a job, so you graduated and you have your certificate, and unfortunately for you, you have people like me who, when you went through the university, you were not learning any extra trade in your arm. What you need to do, even with your certificate, it's never too late. One, you can start learning something. Remember, most of us graduate at the age of 23, 24, 25, which means we're still very young. You can go to any system that you have. Is it that you want to learn how to do computer or computer system? Go and start learning practical skills. Is it that you want to run a business? Dangote once said he sold oranges on the street of Jos. Trust me, he didn't sell those oranges as a 5-year-old person. He sold maybe at the age that you are now. And at his 50s, he is the richest man on earth that has any skin that is black. And he did this within a range of few years after maybe the age that you are now. You may not be as rich as Dangote. Please settle for Abdul Samad Boa or settle for Adenuga, but at least you can do something. But all of these things, you cannot also become the Dangote style until you start learning those type of business that Dangote is doing. Is it that you want to join the polity? You can't sit down and be criticizing the politics if you did not join in the process. Go to your community, register with a political party, start mobilizing for the political party, create relevance for yourself before you realize that issue of saying it's money that wins election. Somebody will come for the money looking for you to contest because he knows you have the people. So all of these things work. But what matters is education helps you, makes you better, you can communicate, you have all the resources you need. So education is key, so we must all have it. But put it in your mind that it is only a means to your success, not the success in itself.
Okay, what is the role of the society in all of this?
Society is the major issue in every problem or every success we have. The only problem is, what is society? The whole society may even like you, but one person may criticize you and you keep reacting to the reaction of that person, not even knowing what the society wants. So society plays a major role and everybody is struggling to fit in. So what I will advise everybody is, most complicated thing in everything you do is not what is said to you, it's how do you react to it. So if the society, they said, gives you lime, use it to do
lemonade.
It's a common cliche. So don't let yourself be bullied out of a system. And to be candid, our young persons now will keep saying, we don't care about society, we don't care about what they say about me. Please, don't care. The fact that you're even saying you don't care, it means you care. It means it's affecting you.
Yes.
Please, apologize to someone whom you've offended. Please, it's an etiquette that is good. But most importantly, do something that will make your life better. Remember, tomorrow, it's always bigger than today.
Okay, thank you very, very much for your time. It has been a very, very eye-opening insight to this topic of discourse for today. So, To that youth out there looking and watching us today, as the world is planning to celebrate the International Day of Education on the 24th of January, which happens to be on a Monday, think about the term education. What does it entail? Is it just about going to school? What is the value of your education? What else are you learning? What relevant skills are you learning aside going to school? And what impact are you planning to create, or are you already creating, to the society that will bring about growth, that will bring about development, that will make you as a youth to be celebrated today? The question is out there, and the answers is at the top burner of your minds. Do well to answer that, and let your actions speak louder than the voice. With this, we are calling it a wrap on today's episode of your darling program, Youth Can on ITV. I have been your host, Joy Igoche. Join us same time next week for another thrilling episode.